Saquon Barkley runs over the Los Angeles Rams yet again in another spectacular performance, essentially recreating the LaShawn McCoy snowball game where LaShawn ran for 217 yards against the Detroit Lions in 2013, while Saquon Barkley almost matched that production with 205 yards, including 2 big long runs against this LA Rams defense. And really was the difference in this game. What a player, what a season, and I mean, where would the Eagles be without Saquon Barkley? The guy has ran for 200 yards in both appearances against the LA Rams, has accrued over 500 yards from scrimmage in the 2 matchups. That is single-handedly one man beating an entire team. And in the first matchup, he went for a 255, a career high, but I mean, in this game, he went for 205. The second one in particular, when I really thought that was the Eagles, him stamping the Eagles ticket to the NFC Championship game, it was a 78-yard touchdown run. Just so deflating when a Rams team is battling in the snow. That's something they're not accustomed to, being a Southern California team. Well, they battled hard, they battled really well, and it was just a very phenomenal game to see such a fantastic wintry atmosphere between the Eagles and Rams. Jared Verse came into this week with a lot of animosity against not only just the Eagles, but Eagles fans, and he was playing the role of villain coming into this week. And I mean, he backed up the talk. I mean, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, a lot of negative plays against the Eagles' very good offensive line. But if you think about, that's great as a pass rusher, that's excellent. But remember, as a defense, we're talking about stopping an entire offense, and there's only so many ways you can stop a team. And to get run over by a combined rushing total of 285 yards, I think that's really eye-popping right there. So congrats on Jared Verse having a great individual stat line, and the Rams defensive front coming in on 7 sacks, which is phenomenal. 16 sacks in 2 games, excellent work. But where was the run defense? Because they got run over by Saquon Barkley in 2 matchups for over 200 yards. And it wasn't just Saquon running over the Rams. Jalen Hurts also had his longest touchdown run of his career when he ran for over 40 yards on the first touchdown run. I understand a lot of people will comment Jalen Hurts, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but he did have his struggles, I'll give him that. I do not like him taking all those sacks, and the injury now to his knee is something to keep a watch for this week heading into the championship game, but he made the plays that he needed to make. I think with the legs, if you think about his passing ability, it wasn't the crispest performance, but I do think that he did have opportunities that were just taken off the board, whether it was penalties. AJ Brown had a bad drop that could have been easily a touchdown catch, and he could have had a tush-push touchdown. Was wiped out by a Lane Johnson false start. Dallas Goedert would have set up a 1st and goal opportunity. And the list goes on and on. I think Jalen Hurts has been doing what's been asked of him, but there's been times this game that I think the Eagles play calling, whether it was calling a passing play right after the knee injury was sustained, where Jalen just couldn't move around the pocket and took a safety. That's on Kellen Moore, just like the week before against the Packers. And you also have the issues with just the pass catchers now being up to standard. And this was a game where the Eagles really missed out on a lot of opportunities. I mean, Jake Elliott, who's had a little bit of a shaky year this year, I mean, he's been pretty reliable, and thankfully his field goals went through. I mean, especially that 44-yard kick that was vital for the Eagles' chances to win this game. But the 2 missed extra points plus the one that he missed in the wild card round is starting to get concerning for me. All these kicks are missing wide left, and I'm definitely growing concerned about Jake Elliott's ability to make kicks, but hopefully continues to be successful. He's making field goals and they can live with the extra points. But if you think about the missed extra points, the penalties in the red zone, the sacks taken by Jalen Hurts, and the drop by AJ Brown, that's wiping out around 22 points in this game. And this game, instead of being a very close game that was 6-point by the final margin, it could have been a blowout. And we can play shoulda, coulda, woulda, but there's absolutely times where the Eagles beat themselves and made it close than it had to be, while they were displaying that they were by far the superior team for this ball game. I understand many people will talk about, well, the snow bailed out the Eagles. Well, let's just look at the tape where even in the previous matchup, the Rams just did not have a good enough matchup against the Eagles. They were outmanned. They could not handle the Eagles' defensive front. And let's talk about the Eagles' defense. I mean, this Eagles' defense saved the day yet again. We talk about Saquon on the offensive side, well, we have to talk about the defense. They were missing Nakobe Dean, who suffered a season-ending torn patellar tendon, and also they lost Quinion Mitchell, their standout rookie cornerback on the outside after the first drive, and you're having Isaiah Rodgers come in as the backup. And I thought as a defense, they did a pretty good job on Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They got loose for a couple outstanding plays where Puka just beat Darius Slay on a route, and Cooper Kupp makes a phenomenal play, and then you even have Demarcus Robinson just out jumping Isaiah Rodgers on that jump ball. But for the most part, they kept them in check, and they also got home. I know they didn't have 7 sacks, but the 5 sacks were pivotal in this game. They had Jalix Hunt, Moro Ojomo, a strip sack by Nolan Smith, and then 2 big sacks by Jalen Carter. I mean, the second one in particular saved the game. And I just need to talk about Jalen Carter. I've been so high on this kid ever since being drafted 9th overall in last year's NFL draft. The strides he's made from rookie year, which he actually had a really good year up until maybe December, where he had 6.5 sacks, a fumble return for a touchdown. And this year, the sacks aren't there. I absolutely understand, but the man is getting double team, held, whatever have you, all ball game long. But his 2 sacks, his pass deflection, the tackle for loss, and the second sack where he basically saved the game, and his QB hits were just so vital to the Eagles' victory. He's the next coming of Aaron Donald. You can guarantee that. The sack itself, the Eagles were clinging to a 6-point lead at this point. It was at the 13-yard line, one good route in the snow where a defender maybe slips. The Rams score, they kick the extra point. It's bye-bye season. It's over. Rams pull up a shocking upset. But Jalen Carter's sack changed the whole complexion of the ball game when it was from a 3rd and 2 on the 13-yard line to a 4th and 11 with a clock running. Ball is outside the red zone now, and they're just kind of scrambling, and then he delivers again with a quarterback hit on Matthew Stafford, having to rush his throw that sails out of bounds, ending the ball game. I can't say more about this Vic Fangio defense. I mean, that is the absolute strength of this team. I mean, just from all 3 levels. Before, it was just the defensive line, where guys like Hassan Reddick and Javon Hargrave were just leading the charge with a bunch of sacks in the 2022 season. But in 2024, it's a well-oiled machine where you have just the elite group of guys working as a team in the defensive line, a great set of linebackers, mainly Zach Bond now with the injury to Nakobe Dean, and the secondary that isn't fantastic, but I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson has had a great season with a bevy of interceptions. Reed Blankenship has been there, and then you have those 2 standout rookies in Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, and even Isaiah Rodgers had a fumble recovery and nearly housed this divisional round matchup against the Rams. I also wanted to talk about Matthew Stafford. I mean, the guy who might have played his final game in football, he balled out. I mean, this guy has always given his all to whatever team he plays for. Early on, when you're playing in Detroit, you're kind of resurrecting a team that went 0-16 before you got there, and I think he did an admirable job. But him with the LA Rams has just unlocked another gear, another dimension in his game. And while he's well past his prime, he still has a lot left in the tank. He had a lot of sidearm passes, and his gutsiness throughout his Rams career, I think, is really, really appreciated. And he was really the real reason why the Rams had any chance in this game, especially late against the Eagles defense. The Eagles now hold on. They are on their way to hosting the NFC Championship game the 2nd time in 3 years, and then we're going to preview the conference championship matchup against the Washington Commanders coming up shortly.